Doctors gave the reason insult to the fetus. That's what they said on the paper, which is funny because I picture a bunch of chromosomes dancing around a fetus, going insulting it. But they speculated that my mother could have had rubella, which was also, I guess, scarlet fever, and that was prevalent in Europe at the time my mother was growing up, and she's from England. But there again, all speculation, and the end result was medical mystery. And now that I'm a grown up and that we talk, my parents and I, they really had no idea what to expect with a child. They called everybody, the governor. I mean, they were like freaking. They couldn't get any help. They tried, Shriner. They just didn't know what to do, understandably. But what happened is I began to develop as a toddler, some of these innate abilities started coming out, using my feet or holding things under my chin or biting my older brother when he was picking on me because I couldn't punch him. These little kind of things, it was becoming apparent that I was going to adapt sort of regardless of the instruction or the stance that my parents took, that nature in and of itself was sort of guiding me. And my first day of first grade, there was like 4 or 5 different news stations there. The interesting part about all of it was as soon as I got to school, the kind of language that I heard from my fellow students was, "How come you get to be on TV?" And which I thought was great. Think about it. They're going, what's the big deal? Why is all this fuss about you? I was talking to my dad the other day, and he was telling me about when I was a little kid. He said he'd see the pack of kids come running by our window, a big old bunch of them. And then he said he'd hear me coming behind them all, like a minute and a half. But he said I'd be trucking as fast as I could. So I think there's probably a tenacity that might have sprung up for me being born this way. But yes, a drive to not be left behind. My parents were terrifically supportive in anything we did. I played soccer, karate. My dad drove me around all day looking for a karate studio. Just before I learned how to play guitar, I was about 11. And back in that days, people were a little more frightful of incorporating somebody with a birth defect or whatever. So it took 3 or 4 karate studios before he found me a teacher, actually. It was pretty interesting. I remember seeing some of the frustration that he went through with it. He's like, hey, my kid wants to learn karate. And this guy's like, I don't know, it's a contact sport. There's punching involved. And so that same tenacity was applied to when I started playing guitar. They were always willing to try to help me figure stuff out. My parents had a really good record collection. We had Jim Croce and Elton John and Queen and Billy Joel and really cool stuff at the time. Be like a parent today buying, Nirvana or something. So I remember getting really choked up by Bohemian Rhapsody and a couple of Jim Croce songs, New York's Not My Home and Time in a Bottle, and and my parents explained to me what these tunes were about or a little bit about the artist, and I just really felt touched by music. Really touched. I mean, it would alter my emotions. Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question, but a lesson learned in time. And it's something unpredictable. My dad worked for a construction company, and on a job site he found an abandoned, beat-up guitar. It's like 3 or 4 strings on it, rusted. He brought it home to me, and that was actually the first real guitar I had. The ones I had before that were kind of more like toys, So, yeah, my first guitar came from the dump. As good as it, Cinderella as that sounds, that's really my first music I played was on this little beat-up guitar out of a job site. Interestingly enough, a neighbor of mine came over wearing an electric guitar and asked if I could play. And then he figured out I didn't have any arms, and we became friends and this and that. And I told him I could play a bit. And he showed me how to play for real. Yeah, Currently, music is what I do full time. I have other means of subsistence and things like that, but right now, my focus has been on music for probably about the last 7 years.
I think Mark is musically extremely talented. I think to be a successful musician, one has to have more than just adroitness and skills playing an instrument um, and singing. But Mark transcends. He's a great singer. He's a great harmonica player. He's a great bass player. He's a great guitarist. But it's his happiness, and it's his personality, and it's his smiling, and it's his sense of humor that comes across while he's playing songs, breaks in between songs, where he's so comfortable with the audience and shares information about himself. So after we see him perform for half hour, an hour or so, we really feel like we have gotten to know Mark. And I'll tell you that you see him for a few minutes and you forget that he doesn't have any arms. You see past his disability so easily, and he makes you feel very comfortable because, as I said, he transcends his disability.
Hold my hand, want you to hold my hand, hold my hand. What you talking about? You ain't got mine. Hold my hand, wherever you wanna go, because whoa, 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 yeah. It's kind of like a pop quiz. It's a dynamite feeling to accept the fact that you just have to do it. You know, that old Nike slogan, just do it. It really is like that. I really believe in that. And sometimes I mean it more than others, but I'm just a firm believer that, yeah, you have to do what you like. Life is too short to have regrets and to be a slave to the grind and inch your way down the freeway in your little metal coffin every day and all of that. It's if somebody wants that, that's great, but just don't get to be 45 or 50 and kick yourself and go, man, I wish I would have done this. That's my philosophy, and that's what I feel like I'm doing now. And it felt very good the first time I actually went to the grocery store and bought milk or bread or something like that with money I made playing music. I really wanted to call everybody that was like, you might need something to fall back on. And guess what? I got a trunk full of groceries right now, and I earned it with my guitar. So that was a good feeling. That was really a great feeling. My favorite reaction from people is when they everybody reacts differently. That's a tough question, but there are times when people close their eyes and listen and sing along and kind of pick up an invisible, undefinable energy that you're trying to throw off. And every now and then when you're playing, you'll look in your audience and you'll find a receptacle to that energy, somebody that's there with you. And when that starts to spread among the people that are listening to me, that's probably the biggest rush that I get when I'm playing. Is you kind of put out this disease, which is your desire to connect with these people, and they start catching it and spreading it amongst each other. It's kind of an interesting thing, a phenomena, if you will, that I'm totally addicted to. Thank you. Yeah.
He's amazing, and really just enjoys playing his songs. His enthusiasm he puts into the piece, and so it's very exciting to watch.
I play 6-string electric or acoustic guitar. With a band, I primarily play bass and sing. I like doing that.
Just the fact that he was born with a medical mystery, doctors have no idea why he has no arms, but he makes up for it. He's awesome. I can't say more than awesome words, I guess.
Walked past his room and I seen this guy playing with his feet. I thought it was hallucinating. I went back and this guy was really playing with his feet. And I was like, whoa, what are you doing? I was like, yo, that was the guy is so remarkable. He's just such a blessed person. I feel so honored. I was been his fan for so long, and it's like now we're jamming together.
He brings so much more to the group of people, he usually says, I hope you don't take it the wrong way, but I like to do it this way. and just everything that comes out of his mouth, every idea he has is just perfect, and it fits perfect. Unexplainable.
The lead singer was also the bassist and played with his feet. That was awesome. It was freaking awesome. What can I say?
But that's like crazy. You play the bass with no arms at all, and they're very, very good.
He inspired me.
And I went up to this guitarist who is playing. He is playing with his feet because he has no arms, and I'm practically about to cry. But I go up to him and tell him that he's an inspiration because he, in fact, is inspiring all of us. And beside that, he's musically talented.
This is an original. Having no arms is pretty rare condition, so there's really not that much that's offered as far as assistive technology goes. But I think it's just out of necessity that I didn't really find a lot of special equipment because it just really wasn't around when I was growing up. And it's only in hindsight that I think I'm happy about that now. Because if I had a special shaver or something like that, I have to always have it with me. And you know what I mean? If I'm at a hotel room or something like that, which, what am I going to do? So, yeah, just always did stuff like the way, as close to the way everybody else did it as possible.
Then I'm bad all night, but I would never hurt you, and I never would desert you. But I might run away the next time that you say you love me. Sometimes too good, yeah, too good for me. Easier to hold on, easier to hold on. Sometimes too good, girl, too good for me. Easier to hold on.
A lot of times people will offer to help pump my gas if I've already kind of got it in there or something like that, and so yeah, they feel awkward, and I think maybe I'm misunderstood at times as wanting to like show the world that I'm independent or this and that. It's really not about that. It's about sort of being in a process and just you want to follow that process through. It's an instinct. When it comes to getting something down from a high place or carrying something heavy, I don't have two beans about asking my friends to do it. In fact, most of the people that I know well, my good friends, that it becomes not even an issue. All the awkwardness will go away because my friends pretty much know my limitations, or at least know better what mine are. So if we're in a line at a store and I hand them a $5, but I don't have a shirt pocket for the teller to put the change back in, some of my friends will almost automatically put their hand out there, shove it in my glove compartment when we get in the car, little things like that. And I've offered people with disabilities assistance before, and I have actually got to feel that same awkwardness. Odd as it sounds, but I have a couple of friends that have disabilities, use wheelchairs, and one has polio and whatever, and when or had polio. Same kind of thing. Hey, can I get that for you, man? No, I got it. It's all right. I do this all the time. Well, I know you can do it. I just wanted to help you. Yeah, well, if I needed your help, I'd ask you. And I go back and forth with this with a couple of my friends in wheelchairs. I go, would you listen to us? This is terrible. A couple of gimp egos going at it, man. So it gets really easy to start leaning on your friends because some things are more difficult. So where some people might say, well, he just wants to prove he can do it. It's like, no, I don't want to prove to you I can do it. I need to prove to myself I can do it in case you're not there. See what I'm saying? It's like, but I'll ask you for help if I need it. I'll ask you, but I'm careful not to. I don't want to become. I always want to be able to take care of myself, even when I become, a senior citizen, or if I ever got arthritis or something. I'd still want to be able to take care of myself. But I'm deathly afraid of having to be cared for. The minute my first child was born, it was the weirdest thing. I felt like something was born in me also at that exact minute. like the song live, like the live song "Lightning Crashes," and a little bit like that. I felt like the parent was born in me the minute my daughter was born, and there was an overwhelming unconditional love in the idea that I'm no longer the most important person in my world. That, I think, is probably the biggest change my kids have had on me, is that. And they teach me how to be simple and not look at the world so complexly. I know that a kid will be happy about like chocolate pie after dinner and something, and that can be enough to fill their world. And I envy that about my kids. So in a way, I instruct them so they can grow to be adults, but in a way I try to tap into the kid within me. I play Army Men with my son. I play dolls with my daughter, my youngest daughter. My oldest one, she won't play Barbies anymore with me, but so yeah, I like being a kid. I like having my kids because it gives me a chance to not only be a dad, but to be a kid too, and we have a heck of a time. We have a lot of fun together.
Very understanding, and he's not like shy and that self-conscious, he just walks out. He's just he's ready to be himself. He doesn't really care.
He's just really cool, and he's funny, and he's got he's just like a cool dad. Yes.
They just get curious how my dad plays guitar with his feet and drives with his feet. It's just, they think it's really weird.
Well, when I make new friends and they find out about that my dad doesn't have arms or anything, they'll get curious, they'll ask questions, but lots of my friends say that I'm really lucky because my dad's very cool.
It'll be interesting to see my children deal with me as they become teenagers. Thus far, my kids have always been proud of me. I don't think they've ever encountered much negative flack, say at school with the friends. For every one comment they'd get from a kid, "Oh, your dad, look at him, he's a freak," or this or that. According to them, and I believe them, I think, more kids will go, "Yeah, but that, Beth and Luke's dad is so cool. He plays guitar and he's big toe and all that." So as long as I don't embarrass them, then I think they'll be able to handle it fine. Yeah, I'd like to have a bigger place for them. I'd like to get them a house or a yard before they grow up and get too old to appreciate a dog and a basketball court or whatever. So that's been a goal of mine for the last probably 10 years. One that I'm working towards daily. Daily it's more of a possibility. And I'd like to grow as a person. I'd like to continue growing and improving, becoming less self-centered and more. Not that I feel I'm self-centered now, but I'd like to become more of a selfless person.
He speaks in my night class at the University of San Diego, where he talks about his education, and he was one of the first to be included with general education students. His parents were strong lobbyists for him to be part of the mainstream. And so he's an incredible inspiration to the teachers in our class.
When I saw you playing that guitar, my friend and I were standing next to each other with our jaws dropped, and I remember talking to him about how I'll never look at somebody with disabilities the same way again.
I just want to say that, it's amazing to me that we've come such a long way. I mean, we really have as teachers. Well, I mean, as people, but as a society, I think that there is a lot more focus now on credentials and potential and things like that. I know that things have changed a lot in a very positive way. I see my children are in 7th and 6th grade, my two eldest children, and they have friends with different disabilities, and it's so much not as much of a big deal now as it used to be back then.
The most interesting part to me about Mark is that he just lives a normal life. He's got a beautiful family. He's got 3 wonderful children. He's a great father. And so the neatest thing about Mark is that he's just a cool guy and a good friend. And he works hard. He works hard at his craft, at honing his skills, at being a musician. And I'm lucky to have him as a friend.
I've never really been. I've been hindered by my own lack of discipline at times, or I think many times I realized that I've always been the only thing that could really stand in my way. I think I know that. And I got pulled over, and I'd already been pulled over once that night by some sheriffs. And so I expected the same old rigmarole. Oh, you drive with your feet? Wow, that's interesting. You got a license? Ha ha ha. Usually that's how I get approached whenever I get pulled over. This time, I saw the guy in my rearview mirror, and he pulled out his gun. And he's all, I saw him pull it out in my rearview mirror. He says, I need to see your hands out the window now. I swear. And I said, I don't have any. Kind of irritated because I just wanted to go home. I'll shoot, he says. And I look in the mirror, and he's not kidding. He's got his gun out, and we had this little standoff in the middle of the road. And what's going through my head is he'd say, put your hands out now. And I'd say, I don't have any. And he goes, I'll shoot. My gun is out. I'll shoot. Finally, what's going on in my head is I'm thinking, okay, all these people in these apartments must be hearing this. And if he shoots me, my kids will be set up for life because there'll be plenty of witnesses. That's really honestly what went through my head. The fear didn't hit me till I get home. But finally, after I just yelled out, you know, I don't have any arms. And he goes, well, get out of the car and lay down. Now, for once, I had put my seatbelt on, which I normally don't do. And in order to get out of my seatbelt, I would have had to do a bunch of jerking around and kind of adjusting and stuff to be able to get out of my seatbelt. And I was afraid if I started trying to get out of my seatbelt that he'd shoot me. So that's when I yelled again. I said, I swear to God, I don't have any arms. And then I looked up, and he's already at my window, and he just reaches in the car and grabs a handful of my shirt and kind of goes, oh. and it was a pretty terrifying minute there for a minute. Because the one thing that he wanted me to do was the one thing in the world that I couldn't comply with. Yeah. You know?
Mama, take this badge from me. Well, I can't use it anymore. Getting dark, too dark to see.
If I could suddenly have arms, believe it or not, I would at least have to pause to think about it. It wouldn't be an automatic yes. It's a very interesting thing. And I've thought about it before, but I don't know how well I would know myself, really. There'd be advantages, there'd be great things, but I may, and I don't know this, but I may end up feeling really obscure and really invisible. I may be so used to having attention from people, even if it's negative, even if it's staring, even if it's this. You know, I always feel like I know I'm alive because there's sort of this small wake behind me. And that's true. And it's not ego, it's not bragging, it's just a fact. I mean, I draw attention where I go. And I don't know how much that would mess with my psyche to have that go away one day.
You walk on by, you hide your eyes, sympathize, 'cause you don't know who I am. Who are you? Where do you come from, and where do you go? If I send an invitation to my world, would you come and stay? And if I had a chance to sing my song, this is what I'd say. We are more the same than you may think. You and me, we are the same. Does anybody have to take the blame? We are the same. We are more the same than you may think. You and me, we are the same. And it's a shame to be ashamed. You hide your head, you hide your heart. You turn it off so you don't fall apart. When you see the man walk by with his whole life in a shopping cart, so you sigh, but you don't cry.